sometimes it's difficult to move forward. We are afraid because of what happened in the past, or it may have been just recently. We're confused as to why we are in the situation that we are at. I don't know what situation that you're at right now, but on the current times, with the current SARS-CoV-2 pandemic, I think most people are uncertain of what will happen in the future, in the coming days, weeks, months, years. I mean, the current situation right now, it makes me think of what that TSA officer reminded me of way back then. We were just having like a small conversation, and then he suddenly brought up the topic that it's on the tune of God at times works in unusual ways. I mean, that idea or statement, or however you want to call it, and that is, I mean, indeed true. Because some years ago, like late 20, this thing happened like around late 2011, and then God worked or started to lift me up from that situation around January, or that was around first quarter first quarter to second quarter of 2012, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, during that time, oh, like 2011, late 2011, I got the news from her younger sister that she got married. After I got that news, I mean, my whole, it's difficult to explain, but picture yourself standing in front of a mirror, and then that mirror suddenly just shattered. I mean, how that's how it was for me, at least for me, when I got that news. I mean, at the beginning, I did ask God why I was at that situation, but later on, I mean, I was able to understand why that thing happened. I mean, weeks, months passing by after I got that news. I mean, whenever like I look above me, I'm seeing like dark clouds hovering over, like floating on top of my head. And I don't know, thinking about it right now, it's kind of weird seeing visually seeing that, or seeing that whenever I look up on top of my head. It's kind of weird thinking about it right now. And I mean, around early months of 2012, I mean, I felt that God was there to help me move forward. I mean, it's kind of weird because at that time it's kind of weird because I was just like browsing the internet to pass time, take my mind off some things, and then it just happens that God showed me these three songs. I mean, these three songs were like instrumental. I mean, through these songs, God made me aware that, or or I started to feel aware that God is there, just waiting for me to ask Him or to ask Him for help. I mean that. I mean that situation. I'm referring to going through that all those seeing the dark clouds above my head. I mean going through um emotional pain. As I mentioned earlier, um, I may have asked God why it happened, but now I mean I know that it's not that God allowed it to happen. It's just because of my decision before that situation, receiving that news from her younger sister. I mean, that situation, it was just a consequence of my decision. I mean, thinking about it, why would I blame God that I was on that situation? I mean, why? When I was or I landed at that situation because of my own doing, a consequence of my decision. I mean, these three songs, I mean, I do still listen to these three. I have it saved on my smartphone's playlist. I mean, and another thing is when I asked God at that time why it happened to me. I mean, it's kind of like doing injustice to him, because I mean, it's not his fault, but I went through that situation, that pain, that suffering, that phase. I mean, even though I did it, I mean, he was still there. When I was confused, don't know what to do, I mean, God was still there. I mean, he still helped me by directing me to hear the songs that I mentioned earlier. The Steady My Heart, Find You on My Knees, and Here. And although I haven't like I haven't heard, or I haven't read, or I haven't came across the following verse. I mean, I just want to let you know that whatever you're going through right now, God is there for you. Um, just ask Him, pray to Him, ask God for strength, for hope, for the things that you need to do, the things that you have to do. Just ask God about it. This verse, it's Matthew 11:28, chapter 11, verse 28. Come to me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I don't know what has happened to you, or whatever you may have said, whatever may have came from your mouth, like blaming God, all those sorts of things. I just want you to know that just as God helped me, even though I did ask Him before why, He still helped me. He still lifted me up, and then helped me to move forward. just as that happened to me, God is also there for you. I mean, if you are going through something, just ask Him as God, ask Jesus Christ. Because this verse over here, this is like, I mean, my interpretation on that one, it's the renewal of God's promise. It's not the promise that all people who believes in Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior will have God to carry their burdens or their trouble, that God will be there. I think my interpretation is Matthew 11:28, and it's the renewal of God's promise, not just to the Israelites, but this time to all people who believes in Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior and accepts Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. The verse that I am referring to, I am comparing this to Matthew 11:28, is the one in Deuteronomy 31. I think that was verses 6 or verse 8 or verse 6 to 8. Yeah. Just check it. Deuteronomy 31 verses 6 to 8. But this Deuteronomy 31, I mean, my interpretation on this one, it's like this is the time when Joshua and the Israelites are having like are going through uncertainties about their future, because this chapter deals with or shows Moses quote unquote passing the torch to Joshua to lead the Israelites. God did reminded Joshua about the promise that God has given. I mean, this, let me see. Let me pull the thing. It was Deuteronomy 31 6 to 8. It states, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or tremble at them, for the Lord your God is the one who goes with you. He will not fail you nor forsake you. Chapter 7, and then, verse 7. Then Moses called to Joshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, Be strong and courageous, for you shall go with this people into the land which the Lord has sworn to their fathers to give them, and you shall give it to them as an inheritance. Verse 8 states, The Lord is the one who goes ahead of you. He will be with you. He will not fail you nor forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed. I mean, this promise that God has made, in the Old Testament, this applies um, to the Israelites, to Joshua, Moses, pretty much just them. However, on the New Testament, Matthew 11:28, as I mentioned earlier, God renewed that promise. So in here, be strong and courageous, and do not fear or be dismayed. So in times of uncertainties like now, give all your burden or whatever troubles that you have, ask Jesus, pray to him, ask him to help you. He's there waiting for you, so you just need to ask. And most importantly, accept him as your Lord and Savior. Okay, so remember earlier I mentioned I was on that situation because of my decision. It's not God's fault. The second, I don't know, how should I call it? Second type, or whatever you want to call it, is there are some things that God does allow to happen, or if mm, there are some situations that God will allow to happen by him intervening. I mean, those situations where we do not have any control over. I mean, instantly, if I mean, if God decides you uh, that thing is not supposed to happen to you, then He will intervene. And this one, I'm only referring to situations where you and I don't have a control over. The situation I was in before, I did have a control over that. It was a consequence of like my decision. I mean, the situations that I was on before, it was way back then. I mean, it was the time during my, if I remember correctly, around my probably elementary school years, or probably first year high school. I mean, the situations that I landed into, like those situations, if God didn't intervene, um, I wouldn't be here in front of this camera or doing this video. I would have already been like 6 feet under the ground. I mean, the first one that happened, I mean, I was at a photocopy center, and then I was about to go home when the one of the papers that I was holding, I mean, the wind like blew it. Don't know the right word for it, but it fell. That piece of paper fell on the ground, so I went after it, and as I was picking up the paper, that piece of paper that fell on the ground, I heard simultaneous shouting from a lot of people. I mean, it's like they were shocked. They were afraid, or they witnessed something shocking. I mean, at that time, I was like mm, one of those types of people who did not care who do not have a care in the world, just lives life going with the flow. I mean, that type. So while I was picking up the paper, so I heard the loud um, shout from those bystanders, and for some reason I decided to like check the check my left side. So I turned my head to the left, and all I saw at that time was a grayish flat metal thing. So after seeing that, I mean, I stood up straight because in order to get the paper on the ground, I had to bend forward. So after seeing that metal grayish flat thing, I stood up straight and saw it was a Jeep type vehicle, and the driver is like shocked, shocked with fear or surprised that I was there in front of the vehicle. Um, it's like if this is my face, like this is the flat metal grayish thing, so it's around that distance. And so after that, just went home, didn't think much of it. Then fast forward several months, years after that, I was at the restroom trying to fix the light fixture when I received an electric shock. So the electric shock, like the contact on the metal part and my skin, it's on my right hand. And then while receiving the shock, I still remember like the feeling like my right hand is like numb, and the weird thing about it is it's not that my hand like started feeling numb while receiving the shock, but after, in a way or another, after my right hand was like flipped backwards, or my right hand just managed to let go from that like fixture. I went outside the restroom. Then weird thing, I tried to when I tried to go outside of the house, but while I was like on the way going out, someone like a man, a stranger, came running, uh, and shouting that someone got electrocuted and died. I mean, when I heard that, I thought um I thought it was weird because when you think about it, going out, well, I was going out being from the restroom. I mean, that time going out from the restroom to go outside or near and near the doors. I mean, it's like the time when a shock was delivered to me, an electric shock was delivered to me, or I received the electric shock, was the same time that that girl received the electric shock also, but the difference is her situation and I, um, she wasn't able to let go, so she got electrocuted and died. Me, my right hand just, or was able to let go of the point of contact, from the point of contact. I mean, there are many other instances, not just those two, because those two happened in Samar, Philippines. Um, there are other instances, not only in Samar, Philippines, but in Manila.